This is Eric Dodd from Mommy Fit, and I want to say I have a special guest. And the reason why I had this person on, Andy, a friend of mine, is he can really answer a question for me that's really important. We know that around this time of year, around fall, as we get into colder temperatures, people typically get more sick. They get flu, they get certain things, and we're not even including COVID, but just get sick in general. So I have Andy on. Andy, thanks for being here. Can you tell me a little bit of, by the way, hi, thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit, just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm an author. Wrote a couple books, have a blog. I have a practice in Toronto at Yonge and Davisville.
Yeah.
Those are the most important things to know, and I love kale. So.
Yes, that's one thing definitely that I know about Andy is his love for kale. Beautiful. So Andy, as I was saying in the intro, I was talking a little bit about, as we know around this time of year, people typically get more sick, cold, flu, and all the above. Seniors typically are even more likely to be at risk for getting getting more sick when it comes to flu and sickness and cold. Speaking as a dietitian, naturally speaking, what are ways that people can stay healthy or boost their immunity?
Yeah, I think like the first part of that, I mean, there's a few parts to that answer, but the first part is that, you know, the health and the strength of your immune system, I think, is a reflection of your overall health, your overall nutrition intake. So it's not as if the immune system is completely separate from other parts of the body, like the digestive tract and so on. So I think the first question to ask from a nutrition perspective is, are you knocking off, you know, some of the key food groups? Are you getting your fruits in? Are you getting your vegetables in? Are you having nuts and seeds? Are you having your legumes, which are the lentils and chickpeas and so on? You know,
yes.
How's your protein intake? You know, whether you have eggs or poultry or fish, which I'll talk about a bit more. You know what I mean? How's your intake of those types of foods? So, you know, the first thing I would look at is the overall balance, and if you're checking the boxes in each of these food groups. If you're doing that, then from there we can get into some more of the specifics. But that's number one.
Yes. Okay. So would you say that are there certain, okay, so because you named a lot of really good information, is like, so for somebody that is just starting, or they just say, okay, it's getting colder, is there something, what would be the first step for you in terms of what you would do if you were giving someone advice in terms of what specifically that you would tell them to eat?
Yeah, well, the first thing I would look at, honestly, given that, you know, we're getting into fall, we're getting into, you know, fall first, then winter, sun rays in Canada getting weaker, so vitamin D pops up right away. Okay. Yeah. Now, vitamin D pops up for a couple of reasons. I mean, first of all, Health Canada recommends everyone above the age of 50 should supplement at least 400 international units of vitamin D per day. Okay.
Yeah.
That's number one. Vitamin D is not having enough vitamin D is associated with increased risk of like respiratory tract infections, things like that. Now, that's something that needs to be explored further. It's not definite, but there's definitely a connection between immunity and vitamin D. Part of the reason being many Canadians, especially in the winter months, don't have enough vitamin D in their body because you can't get it from the sun in the winter. And then, you know, if you're not supplementing, which again, if you're over 50, you should be, there's not so many foods that contain vitamin D. The single food that has the most vitamin D is fish.
Fish.
Yeah. So if you're not, salmon, which is quite commonly available, happens to be, you know, one of the richest sources. There are a few other foods. For example, you know, milk is fortified. Milk alternatives are fortified with some vitamin D. Eggs have some vitamin D. But fish is really, by far and away, the highest natural source of vitamin D. So if you don't eat fish, you know what I mean, with any regularity, that's something to work on right away. Fish, of course, also has omega-3s. Omega-3 fatty acids, these essential fatty acids that our bodies cannot make themselves, that are anti-inflammatory in nature, and that definitely support the immune system as well. And and again, omega-3s are not found in very many foods. Yeah, they're found in fish. They're found in a little bit in flaxseed and chia seed and walnuts and a few other foods. But beyond those foods, not many foods have omega-3s in them. So you can see now these specific nutrients are not found in too many places. And it's very, very easy for someone to eat a healthy, balanced diet and miss those nutrients. So that's where I would look first.
Well, I think, that's a really good place to start. And another thing I'd like to add, and I'm sure you're someone that I know I'm preaching to the choir. It's not food, but exercise, how much of a role exercise plays in regards to it. I want to ask you one more question, and I think your answer was great. Have you noticed the clients and the patients that you've come into contact with, have you noticed anyone that you've kind of done this with and you've seen such a huge improvement in terms of whether it just be their immunity and what other things have you seen in terms of what's happened to them, the benefits?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, look, when you're changing the way you eat, when you're optimizing your diet, right? You don't get the results of that next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you now, though, for many of my clients, now this goes for things related to general immunity, to digestive health, to acid reflux, whatever the issues are. Eating healthier, eating in a more balanced way, in a more strategic way, inevitably, if you give it enough time, these types of things will get better. So if barring some external thing that's going on, if you're someone who, let's say, you get sick more often than you think you should, but you're otherwise okay, and your diet quality is just so, I would expect many people in that situation, if they improve the quality and balance of their diet, that they may get sick less frequently. Now that depends on a bunch of factors, but definitely what I say is food doesn't fix everything. But if your diet is not on point, is not optimized, you can't be sure that what you're dealing with is not related to that issue. That's kind of my philosophy on that.
Oh, that's an awesome answer. That pretty much nailed exactly what I need to say. Before we leave, I want to say one, thank you, but two, you talked about the books that you've written. Could you kind of like tell people a little bit about the books, just a little bit about the books you've written, and just in terms of your social media, in terms of, can you just give a little information about that, Andy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've written a couple of books. I happen to have one right beside me. It's a low sodium cookbook. I've written
I've seen that somewhere.
Yeah, you may even have one.
I might have one.
I've written a low cholesterol cookbook. I've written a DASH diet cookbook for lowering blood pressure. I've written a book about acid reflux. So a lot of my books are about common problems that people are dealing with, and I teach you how to solve them. And I mean, you type my name, Andy DeSantis, on Amazon or on Indigo, and my books will come up. They may not be in the store, but they'll definitely be available online. And Andy, you Google my name, Andy DeSantis, my website, andytherd.com, or that's my Instagram as well. You could find me there. And one last point related to immunity that I will drop on you before I go is, we're learning more and more that the gut, right, the digestive tract is a very, very important site for immune things, shall we say. So, gut health obviously also is associated with your overall health, your overall diet. For example, there's certain foods, like yogurt, for example, that contains probiotics or these healthy gut bacteria. And then other foods like legumes or like asparagus or artichoke or onion or garlic, certain types of vegetables or certain types of high fiber foods, which are actually called prebiotics. And they actually act as food for your healthy gut bacteria. So those are the kind of things are really interesting as well. And, I encourage anyone who wants to kind of take their gut health or their overall health, their dietary health, their dietary balance to the next level to work with a dietitian if they have the opportunity to do so.
Beautiful. I think it's a great answer, because you know what? I actually have. What is your feeling before you let you go? What is your feeling about? I know that foods naturally have something like yogurt, for example, has the probiotics. What do you feel about in terms of someone taking a little bit of a supplement for a probiotic?
Yeah, I mean, the probiotics in supplement form, it can be complicated, right? Because what happens is there's many different species and strains of bacteria, right? And they all play a different role, and they're all indicated for different things. So, for example, someone who has IBS may benefit from a certain group of bacteria. Someone who just took antibiotics and dealt with diarrhea from antibiotics and needs to recover their bacterial populations, they might benefit from something different. So, I can't say across the board that just by taking a probiotic, that's going to give you some massive benefit, right? I think it's something to discuss with your healthcare provider, and for the right person, it could be a good choice. But it's not. I can't blanket say everyone take a probiotic, and it's going to fix all your problems. I wouldn't go that far.
Okay, great answer. Anything else? Because I want to say thank you so much. You're awesome. I want to make sure I put your info
I appreciate
in the video. Much appreciated. Much appreciated for the book too, by the way.
Thank
you so much.
Welcome. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No, you guys haven't figured it out. Eric does indeed have a copy of my
I do have a
latest
copy.
book. And the reality is, look, high blood pressure. A lot of Canadians above the age of 50 are taking medication for blood pressure.
Yes.
And one of the ways that you lower your blood pressure is you reduce the sodium in your diet, you increase the potassium in your diet. And my book and actually blog posts I've written on this teach you how to do it. So that's kind of what it's for.
Well, beautiful. I'd love to have you on another time for another
100%.
topic, but thank you so much, Andy.
Thanks for having me, Eric. I'll catch you soon.
All right, bye-bye.